Hello there.
Hello there.
Welcome in. Welcome in. Yes, I've been hibernating for about the last week. I've been needing to do a proper postmortem on the 2025 Bears. But I just haven't been feeling like it. But here I am, sucking it up and bringing you my final commentary on the 2025 season.
83. Fact machine.
Yes, I shall remember the 2025 season fondly. As stated in my How We Got Here video, the league year started off great with the hiring of head coach Ben Johnson.
Everyone get back to work.
Then, when the free agency period opened up, the Bears immediately got to wheeling and dealing
Limousine riding, jet flying.
to get the offensive line reworked. Bringing in solid veterans like Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, and Jonah Jackson, these three acquisitions would prove key to the overall improvement of the Bears' offense going forward. After the free agency period, the Bears would go on to have one of their best drafts, if not their best draft ever, offensively speaking, of course, making 8 picks in the 2025 draft. 4 of those players would go on to be significant contributors throughout the year. Being selected at number 10 overall, Colston Loveland would give us a health scare in the preseason. However, he would go on to have the most prolific Bears tight end rookie season since the coach. Taken in the second round with the 39th overall pick, Luther Burden III would struggle early on in the year, but by the end of the season was showing us just how dangerous he can be with the ball in his hands, especially in open space.
Caleb takes a high snap, throws out to the left. That's complete to Luther Burden, makes a man miss. Across the 25, makes another man miss, and he goes down just shy of the first down.
Also in the second round, taken 56th overall, was tackle Ozzie Trapillo. He would play in 14 games and make 6 starts at left tackle, becoming an anchor for the line before suffering a torn patellar tendon in the wildcard victory against Green Bay. And of course, 7th rounder Kyle Monangai, who had arguably the biggest impact on this team, with 947 yards from scrimmage, showcasing a bruising running style that Bears fans eat up like jardiniere. The season would not get off to a rousing success, with the Bears dropping a 17-6 lead in the fourth quarter against the Vikings in Week 1, and then suffering an embarrassing loss out in Week 2 against Detroit, in which the Lions were just playing with their food in the second half. I'm not sure if I've ever shared this sentiment on my channel, but the first 2 weeks of the year reaffirmed my belief that there should be no divisional games in the first 2 to 4 weeks of the regular season. With most teams sitting starters nowadays to avoid injury going into the regular season, the average team isn't fully up and running until the end of September. Divisional games mean way too much in the grand scheme of things, and I feel that teams should get the opportunity to work the kinks out in the first few weeks, before going into matchups that carry the most weight in your season. It ended up not mattering for our Bears in the end, so I digress. Week 3 would be the first breakout performance for the offense in general, with Caleb throwing 4 touchdowns in a home win against the Cowboys. This game would also establish the Bears' defense as a takeaway machine, with 3 picks and a fumble recovery. The next 2 games against the Raiders and Commanders, respectively, would be the point of the season where the Bears would start testing fans' heart health in back-to-back 25-24 victories on the road. Both wins would be orchestrated by Caleb, throwing the go-ahead touchdown with 1:30 to go out in Las Vegas, and putting Jake Moody in position to kick the game winner out in Washington, while filling in for an injured Cairo Santos.
It feels amazing, to get, all that support after the game from all my teammates. I got here not too long ago, but for everybody to embrace me and, take me in as one of their own, it's an amazing feeling.
After beating the Saints and suffering a loss to the Tyler Huntley-led Ravens, the Bears would go out and play a barn burner in Cincinnati. This game would be Colston Loveland's breakout performance, catching 6 balls for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. The victory against the Bengals would start a 5-game winning streak, with 4 in a row being one-score victories, firmly cementing this team as the cardiac squad of 2025. Then, in a Black Friday matchup against the Eagles, the Bears would put together a rushing performance that had us conjuring the names Walter Payton and Matt Suhey as the only comparative performances. I won't dive too deep into the Packer matchups, as they've been thoroughly documented on this channel, but sandwiched between those two Packer games was an absolute drubbing against the Browns, who still boasted a respectful defense. And then after the Packers sandwich, they would go out to Santa Clara and lose a shootout against the 49ers in cardiac fashion. But these offensive performances late in the year would showcase what the Bears' offense was capable of going forward. In the season finale against the Lions at home, the Bears would lose again. Though not as embarrassingly as the first time around, it did happen at a time when the Bears were playing some of their best football, leaving me to wonder if the Lions are just a bad matchup, or if there's some master apprentice stuff going on here. I have to believe it's the former, but I guess we'll find out more in 2026. Of course, the Bears would go on to give us our most positive, memorable moment of the last 15 years, eliminating the Packers from the playoffs in yet again cardiac fashion. At this point, we Bears fans were brimming with excitement of an actual run at the Super Bowl. Alas, it was not meant to be, as the Bears would fall in yet another one-score game to the Rams of Los Angeles, and the Cinderella season would come to an end. Now, I believe, more like hope, that with how the season played out, and especially with how the Rams playoff game played out, that Coach Johnson learned to be a little more selective with his aggression going forward. Now, while I certainly have no issue with going for it when it's necessary, I would argue that in the first quarter in a tie ball game, take the points. Ruthless aggression should be reserved for later in games.
Time to play the game!
Too many drives ended on 4th down, either in the red zone, resulting in no points scored.
Caleb takes the shotgun snap, looking left, looking over the middle, delivering over the middle way too high, and that's going to get intercepted at the 2-yard line.
Or on the Bears' own side of the field, resulting in tremendous field position for the opponents. All in all, this was an extremely positive first year for Coach Johnson, ingratiating himself with the fans and the franchise alike. And there is most certainly reason to believe that Caleb and this offense will get much better in year 2. The majority of the offensive starters are under contract for 2026, and save for a couple of changes, this is what the Bears' offense is going to look like more or less in 2026. Nothing against either player, as they have both been tremendous performers. However, I don't expect DJ Moore or DeAndre Swift to be on this squad next year. They aren't necessarily the prototypical players for this type of offense, and they look to be decent trade pieces. I expect much of the 2026 free agency period and the draft to be devoted to the defensive side of the ball. While this team did lead the league in takeaways, this front seven could not stop the run or generate a pass rush of any kind in 2025. With lots of cash and draft capital in hand, the Bears have a lot of options going forward for improving this front seven. Max Crosby, anyone? Well, that is it. My final recap / update video for the 2025 season. I still plan to put out a couple of compilation videos, and I'm debating live streaming for the remaining 3 games of the postseason. Either way, I will still be here, and I eagerly await the start of the new calendar year come March 11th. Once again, thank you all for joining me. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I am Joby Wan, and until we meet again, may the force be with you.
Always.